Welcome to On Record PR, where we go on record with industry leaders to discuss best practices for public relations strategies that drive business success. Let's get started with the show.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Larson, a guest host of On Record PR and Executive Vice President at Furia Rubel Communications. In this episode, we're going on record with Robin Robinson. Robin was first elected to the Recorder of Deeds in Bucks County in November 2017 and was sworn into office on January 2nd, 2018. Throughout her first year, Robin made significant positive changes to the office. One of her most notable achievements is the Historic Deed Book Restoration Project, which is what we will be talking about today. Robin has made every effort possible to maintain our property records by restoring these historic treasures. She made it her personal mission to preserve Bucks County's history by doing whatever she can to save the more than 700 historic deed books she found deteriorating in a county warehouse. To this end, Robin launched an Adopt a Book program, which allows business leaders and community members to make donations to help defer the cost of restoring this process. She also put measures into place to thwart deed scammers, in addition to instituting a free Bucks County fraud alert system for the residents of Bucks County. This voluntary service notifies residents via email or text anytime a document is recorded in Robin's office against their name. More than 2,000 residents have signed up for this proactive solution. Prior to being elected Recorder of Deeds, Robin served as the executive assistant to County Commissioner Diane Ellis Marseglia. Before her 10-year tenure in the commissioner's office, Robin worked as the Bucks County Jury Commissioner. In addition to her experience in county government, Robin worked at a title company and served as a licensed realtor. Robin is proud of the first 15 years of her career in fashion retail management. She and her late husband were the owner-operators of a small retail business. Robin graduated from San Diego State University and made it all the way out here to Pennsylvania. We'll have to talk about that, right? With a degree in communications and a minor in business administration. Widowed at a young age, Robin knows the extensive toll the death of a loved one can have on family. She believes giving back her own personal time as a volunteer facilitator with the bereavement group Safe Harbor at Abington Hospital and with Gift of Life organ donation is important and valuable life work. Robin also volunteers her time to care for homeless cats at Rescue Perfected, which is located in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. For the last 7 years, she has been honored to serve on the Bucks County delegation to the Pennsylvania Democratic State Committee. Robin has 2 adult children, a rescue dog named Lily, and lives in Warwick Township. So welcome, Robin.
Thank you.
That was quite an extensive introduction. My, we only have one episode, but I think we'll have to come back and talk to you again about some of these other wonderful things that we included there in your bio. So today we're going to focus on this amazing project to restore some of these deeds that you found in Bucks County. But before we launch into that part, why don't you share with our listeners a little bit about why you ran for the office of Recorder of Deeds?
The first time I ran was in 2005. And what happened was the Democrats were looking for someone to run for Recorder of Deeds, and they sent out a blast email. And I read it, and I said to my husband, I said, wow, look at this. I think I could do this. So I applied to run with the party, and they said yes. Well, little did I know they would have taken anybody at that point. But, I was really, thought, ooh, okay. So I ran, and because of my real estate background and my title background and my management background, that's what I'm really proud of. I know how to run an office, and to do great customer service is a really big thing for me. So I lost by 1,400 votes. And then I ran again in 2009 because I just have this personality that I don't want to give up. I lost again in 2009, not unexpectedly, but then my husband passed away in 2010. And in 2013, I decided to sit it out. But when 2016 came, leading into 2017, I said to my kids, I think I'm going to give this one last try because it looks like things are shifting in the county and I might have a chance, and I would just be sick if I didn't try and somebody else won this when I know that I could do it. Even though I really didn't know, we don't know what we don't know in life. That's what I like to say in this department. And I really didn't know. But I gave it one last try, and I worked very, very hard, and I won. And it has just been the most fun I think I've ever had in my life.
So two questions come to mind about that backstory. Number one, for our listeners who are not as engaged in politics, whether at the local or state level, is it common to run the first time and not win? Is that sort of accepted in a lot of places?
Well, in Bucks County, this was a very strong Republican county. So really, you had to be a Republican to win a county office. We have all the offices now. This is a first. When I won Recorder of Deeds, I was the first Democrat in over 30 years. The last one was Lucille Trench, who went on to become a county commissioner. So it is very, very rare, but things have changed in Bucks. Like if you're political, you know that usually a Democrat can win the presidential race here in Bucks County. But locally, Democrats don't come out. Well, they're coming out now. And all of us are proof. And so I just, I could have switched to become a Republican to run. That's not in my DNA. Plus, I don't even think that this should be a political office. I do not treat this as a political office. This is a manager's job. And, I love this job. And my main job is to protect and maintain the record of this county. I have 18 employees. And, when you have that many employees and a lot of customers we deal with, it takes a good manager to do it correctly. And that's my real talent.
Well, and that's a great segue into the foundational question of letting our listeners know what exactly a Recorder of Deeds does. Because again, if you're just a normal everyday person and you don't really follow a public service or local public governments, you probably have very little idea what actually happens. So what exactly does your office do?
Well, we record all the deeds and mortgages and power of attorneys and name changes, and we do the notary commissions of people in the county. So we record about 25 really important documents here, including veterans' discharge papers, which we do free of charge. And that's really important because when a family member, I had a mother who was one of the first women to join the United States Army in World War II, and she lived with me 11 years. And when she became ill and I needed help with her care, because I was able to get her discharge papers, we need those papers to prove things. So we have those discharge papers of the veterans who let us record them. And that is not public information. Everything else we have is public information. So title companies, when you buy a new home, they search that title and to give you clean title and give you title insurance. That is done here in our office. So we do many things like that. When you pay off your mortgage, that mortgage satisfaction comes to us. We record that. Now, one of the most questions we get asked is people call wanting to have their deed, that they've paid off their mortgage and they want their deed, and they think that we have them here. And I just want to tell everyone, no, when you close on your home, you're given the deed after closing by your title company. It comes here, we record it, we send it back to your title company or your lawyer if you use a lawyer instead, and they give you your deed. Now, we will always be happy to email one of our constituents their deed free of charge. If we have to print it out and mail it, we have a very small charge for that. But the deeds are not kept here. The records they're in a cloud. We have all the records and we have backups for them and everything is good, but we do not keep everyone's deed here.
I can't wait till the day when I need to email you and say, Robin, I paid off my house. I need the deed.
Even if you need your deed and you haven't paid off your house, you can call us and we'll send you a deed. Back in the old days, deeds were large and beautiful and written out just gorgeous. Now they're on white paper and they're copied, they're Xerox. So it's not as exciting as it was in the old days here in Bucks County.
And many, many years ago when I covered the Bucks County government for our local newspapers here, I spent some time in the Recorder of Deeds office and saw the deed from William Penn, and just, they're absolutely beautiful documents. They, the kind of in my mind, they're up there with the illuminated manuscripts of the Bible that the Franciscan friars used to labor over, with all of the beautiful edging and the
Exactly.
pretty designs there. So I assume that those books are still kept somewhere. Where are those books kept?
So, you're describing the deed, they're large and beautiful, and they have cuts at the top of them to show the chain of title. It's like a puzzle. You match it up, but people kept their deeds. Now, I have some old deeds and I preserve them, and they're gorgeous, and I love to show them and brag about them. But the deed books are the record of those deeds. And the record is word for word what's on the deed. So back in a day, people who were writing the deeds were being paid by the word, and they're very wordy and they're hard to read.
Wait a minute. They were paid by the word, and so that's why they're so wordy?
Yes.
That's funny.
Yes. So our deed books are word for word, everything that is on the person's deed. Now, back then and today, it is not legally required to record a deed, but we highly recommend it for the search of title. So we can't always go way far back. And people come in here, or we can all do it on home now. I've opened up the records back to 1684. When I got here, the records, you could only get them online back to 1980, and then you'd have to come into our office. But with the pandemic, I did this before the pandemic, but my timing was wonderful, because now any citizen can go on landex.com and pull up and look at all the records of these deed books. And Landex does charge a small fee, 15 cents a minute and 10 cents to make a copy. But we have a lot of people who are very interested in genealogy, and they want to search their names and the properties of their ancestors, and it's all there available for them to do at home.
And can you please repeat the name of that website for our folks who are listening?
It's landex.com.
Landex?
Correct.
Landex.com. Okay,
Correct.
Good. Well, and that brings us to one of the reasons that you caught my eye was Robin and I were on a virtual networking Zoom hosted by the Central Bucks Chamber of Commerce, because, of course, we're still in the midst of this pandemic, and many, many things that previously were held in person are now held via Zoom. And you had talked a little bit about your deed preservation project. And one of the things that caught my attention specifically was the records of the emancipated slaves. So tell us a little bit about how that project started. And I know there's an interesting backstory on how you even found those books. So how did that project get going, Robin?
So I was already in the midst of the deed books, and I had gone to a meeting. This is all in 2018, my first year. I just went straight out of the gate. Why waste time, right? I found out about the deed books. I found them in the warehouse, and I started fixing them. I had gone to a meeting of Recorder of Deeds in June 2018, and I met a recorder, Debbie, from Washington County, who was telling me about her deed books and that she was preserving them. And she was telling me about enslaved people that she had in her deed books. So I came home, and I did not know a lot about this, but I found out that there's documents called manumissions. And manumissions are documents before the Civil War that are freeing slaves. So mostly Quakers would write up, they would purchase a slave, and then they would set them free, and they would write up a manumission to set them free. And then they would have those recorded in my deed books. And I mostly found them in our miscellaneous books. So we have a large volume, about 60 volumes of miscellaneous books. And it had the manumissions in them. It had cows that had been purchased and general store things and power of attorneys and all kinds of miscellaneous things. But I found these manumissions. We were able to get a federal grant for $125,000 from Save American Treasures from the National Park Services. And we were able to save these miscellaneous books with the manumissions in them. And it's fascinating. Every township and municipality in this county had enslaved people. I've been told that you could stand in Warminster and look across the gorgeous farms, and every little house there was an enslaved person that lived there. The enslaved people of Bucks County built this county. We've been working on studying, as much as we can to try to tell the story through the land records. And there were two enslaved people named Kojo and Joe who were owned by Jeremy Langhorne. And when he passed away, he left life rights to these two fellows. And back then, enslaved people were not allowed to own property. So they only were able to own this property through their lives. Well, one of them left, and I hope he got a little money for it. But the other one stayed and worked that land until he passed away. And then that property was sold off. But it's very interesting. And that property is all right here. It's Doylestown Borough. Mm-hmm. And where I'm sitting right now in the old courthouse building is part of the land that was owned by, our two enslaved people, Joe and Kojo. And that means, to me, that means a lot. There are stories all over this county. The Underground Railroad, we have the deeds, list recorded of places that were, part of the Underground Railroad. And we're still working on a story about that. But it's just absolutely fascinating. And, most people in Bucks County don't realize, that we had enslaved people. We had a really, really large task with the Underground Railroad. We have a place in Quakertown that 700 enslaved people went through on their way north. So it's just absolutely fascinating. This county has,
and I think it's so important, especially given the times we're living in right now. This year, 2020, the memes about 2020 will be long lasting. All of the things that have happened this year to our country and to all of us. But one of the things, of course, that has changed, I think, in the last few months is a newfound resolution to focus on diversity and equity and inclusion and anti-racism. And as a white person, part of that for me is recognizing that there's some history that I have to unlearn and relearn. And some of the things that you just mentioned, I think, are such an important part of Bucks County's story and enslaved people here in Bucks County and how little many of us still commonly know about it. So your office's focus on preserving these records will help advance that story even further. And hopefully my children will someday will be learning much more about that than we ever knew.
I hope so. And I wanted to say one other thing. There's so much I'm learning still. And when I first got a hold of these manumissions, I was really, very, very excited and that the Quakers were buying enslaved people and setting them free. But there's always a but. Mm-hmm. Some of these manumissions free the enslaved person when they turn 28 years old. And so I'm very naive at that point, and I'm thinking that's young, but it's not. Back then, they felt that 28, they were too old. They couldn't do any more work. So, I'm still working on investigating that and learning more about that. And some of them are younger than that. And some are women. And I have a manumission hanging in my office. It's just fascinating. And like you said, we didn't all learn history the way it really was. We learned what the books told us and whoever wrote those books.
Exactly. The person who gets to write the story tells the story. So how far along in the preservation process are you?
I am halfway through. So I'm very excited about it. We had 700 volumes, and most of those volumes turned into 2 volumes. So like book 33 is part 1 and part 2, because they're all the pages after they're treated and put through all this restoration, they're put into a mylar sleeve. And so that makes the books very large. They're very large and heavy, but they're going to last for 500 years. I've been promised that. So I'm very excited. We have a new storage facility here in this building. They're under lock and key. They're kept very cool. We have a humidifier gauge in there that we received from a grant. So we are, one of my other goals is to take care of these books now that they're redone and to go forward. So we're still applying for grants. We have a couple books being fixed right now that are from a grant we got from Pennsylvania, from the state. And we're still looking for more grants. And, that's what we do. And we have raised $40,000 from the public and from municipalities and all kinds of people in the help of the preserving the books. And when people give us a lot of money, we put their name in the book. So it's a wonderful gift. Last Christmas, I had a lot of people give large donations to put their loved one's name in the book. And it's something that's going to last forever. And it's just really an honor.
Oh, that's interesting. Are you doing that again this year for Christmas?
Oh, yeah, I do it. I'm doing it every day.
Christmas, well, and I think that's an important thing to emphasize. So this project is not being done with county taxpayer dollars, correct?
Correct. So it's done with Adopt a Book money, with grant money, and with record improvement money. So every time, this is state law, and I'm so glad you brought this up, Sarah. So by state law, every time we record a document in this office, we collect $5. $3 stays in this office for our record improvement money, and $2 goes to the county for other record improvements in the county. So like I said, my main job is supposed to be to maintain and protect the record of this county. So I'm given this record improvement money to use to do that. So that money is used when we had this pandemic. Well, we had the building shut down. We were all ready to work at home, but I only had limited number of laptops. Well, I was budgeted with my record improvement money, again, not taxpayer dollars, from this fund to buy new computers. So we were able to purchase laptops for most of the staff so that people could work at home, so that we keep the department disease-free, and we have to social distance. We more than social distance. But we have the ability now, if this building shuts down, we can work off-site. And legally, we have 5 days to record any document that comes in here. And so we have to keep this thing going. So that record improvement money pays for those kinds of things, anything to improve the record. The other thing that I'm looking into that we're going to be doing this year is we're going to be moving our records to PDFA files. So that is going to save the county or record improvement money more money. And it's going to be a better, newer way. Right now, they're on microfilm, and they are at an off-site location, Iron Mountain it's called, and we have to pay a lot of money to store our records there. These records are so important, and we just have to take care of them. So we have the books, and we have the online records, so we are really, really in good shape.
And it sounds like hedging our bets against the changing file storage systems of the future. Because I don't know about you, but I can't access the floppy disks that all my college papers are saved on anymore.
Exactly. So yes, so Sarah, you're absolutely right. This is how I'm paying for this project, with money that I'm supposed to use to improve the record. Legally, I cannot give that money to children and youth or to the health department or anywhere. It has to be used to improve and maintain the record of this county.
It's a dedicated fee.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we have a couple minutes left. Let's go back. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Bucks County Fraud Alert System? What is that?
I would love to. So again, when I first got here, I don't remember the exact date, but I saw an advertisement on television for $9.95 a month. This company would protect a person's deed. So I came into the office and I started thinking about it. How would they protect someone's deed? Well, I guess they could, it's public information, they could pull it up every day and look at it. Or I don't know if they go, we do not have liens in this office. That's in pathonetary if you have a mechanic's lien. So I don't know how they would be protecting the deed. But I called Landex and I said, I need to do something for my constituents to help with any fraud. And I know a lot of people know about the fraud in Philadelphia and about the taking of the deeds and the homes. And we haven't had any of that here at all. But I wanted to be proactive. So Landex wrote this program for us. And really, it's to protect us against identity theft. So if anybody comes, if you're signed up, and it's super easy to do because I told Landex, I have to be able to do this by myself without my daughter's help. I did it all by myself. So I know that everyone can. It's that easy to sign up for, and it's free. And once you're signed up, if anything is recorded in our department in your name, you will get an alert either by text or email, however you choose to sign up. And it's been wonderful because I have one constituent in Upper Makefield who told me she calls our office every week because she's worried about someone in her family doing something with her name. She doesn't have to call us anymore. If anything gets recorded here, she's going to get an alert. I have a neighbor. I live in Warwick. I had a neighbor tell me that he owns a big house in Warrington that he paid off, and he bragged to his whole family at a family party. A few weeks later, he received paperwork in the mail for a second on that, a home equity loan on that house. He didn't take that out. Someone forged his name, a fake notary, and it got recorded in my office. And this is before my fraud alert program. He had to pay $100,000, and it took 2 years to straighten this out. It turned out it was his niece. He did not press charges, but if he had been signed up for this fraud alert program, he would have been alerted immediately. He would have called our office. We would have told him what to do, and he could have stopped this. So, we find everyone seems to really like it. We haven't had any fraud to our knowledge here, but we're ready. And it's just something that can help protect us against identity theft, which is a real problem.
And how horrible that it's your own family perpetrating it.
A lot of it, people I speak to, a lot of it's family, friends, or work associates. I ran into another person when I was getting vacuum bags. And, I'm always handing out cards for the fraud alert. And they told me, oh my gosh, you're just a month too late. A work associate had stolen this fellow's identity. So we just have to be careful.
Yeah, it happened. It probably happens a lot more than we really know.
Yep.
All right. So we have two questions that we always like to ask every one of our guests. On a personal note, what achievement are you most proud of and why?
Well, besides, my kids, I'm very proud. I'm going to start crying. Today would have been my husband's 70th birthday, and he's been gone 10 years. So on a personal note, I'm extremely proud that I was able to get my kids through high school, college, and graduate school on my own. So I'm very proud of that. On a professional level, I'm extremely proud of the deed books and being able to see a problem like a lot of us who are mothers. I could look at my kids' laundry for pass it about 5 times on the floor, and then I'd have to pick it up. These books were thrown on the floor in the warehouse with no heat, no air conditioning. The records of this county back to 1684 with William Penn's name and all of our long lost relatives and all kinds of stuff in these books. And I feel so proud and just so grateful for all the people who have helped me make this possible.
Those are both wonderful things. Thank you for sharing that. And then one of the things we've been asking more recent guests, because we're all trying to build out our reading lists for the year, is do you have a recommendation of a book for personal or business inspiration that you like to share?
Well, I just read a book a month ago, To Begin Again. And it's the story, and it's kind of apropos. I'm reading a lot of things because of the manumissions and everything I'm learning. To Begin Again is the story of James Baldwin. And if people don't know who he was a wonderful writer back in the 60s, African-American, and just extremely talented, wrote many, many wonderful books. And I am privileged because my mother was such a reader that I have all James Baldwin's books. Maybe I don't have all of them, but this Begin Again, it's written by a professor. It's new by a professor from Princeton. His first name's Eddie. I absolutely was enthralled with this book. It brings us, like you were saying, Sarah, into today, back from the 60s, what James Baldwin went through, but everything is so today with the struggles of our country and our race relations.
We will put that on our list. We've been... Our agency has been compiling a list of resources, including books to read and, documentaries and shows to watch for diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. So we will definitely add that to our list. Well, Robin, I'm so thrilled that you could join me today. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I'm sure our listeners have too. If people are interested in learning more about the deed preservation project or program, or they're interested in the adopt a book part of it, or the, inscribing your relative's name on the inside, how can they find out more? How can people contact you?
Well, they can go to our website at buckscounty.org and go to the row officers under government and look for the Recorder of Deeds, and everything is on my page. I do Zoom presentations. I tell the stories of the books with wonderful pictures of everything, of all the books, and I tell the whole story. So, and it has the fraud alert on there and a bunch of other information.
Okay, great. Well, we will be sure to check that out, and hopefully we can check back in with you in a few months and see how this project is coming along. It's just so exciting to see that you're doing this.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. I would love that.
This episode is sponsored by Furia-Rubel Communications. Recognized as the #1 agency by the National Law Journal, Furia-Rubel helps top businesses and law firms with high-stakes public relations and marketing, reputation management, crisis planning, and incident response. Furia-Rubel also supports law firms and their clients with high-profile litigation, media strategy, and training. To learn more, go to furiarubel.com or email podcast@onrecordpr.com. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider rating us on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to On Record PR at Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or Apple.
Thank you for listening to On Record PR. Visit our website, onrecordpr.com, to subscribe to the show, share it with your friends on social media, find show notes, additional episodes, and more information. We'll see you next time. In the meantime, feel free to send us questions or show ideas at podcast@onrecordpr.com.